Are you going to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 33. Hello, True Health seekers. Welcome to another exciting podcast all about exploring your health and giving you tools and resources to gaining optimal health naturally, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Today's episode is dedicated to my mother. Today is her birthday. She was 55 when she passed away. It was in 2002, and it was of liver cancer. That is way too young to be a mother, and that is way too young to lose your life, especially to a horrible disease that is cancer. Something that we know now, there's so many ways to prevent it. While she was passing away in the hospital of liver cancer, which had spread from other areas of her body, a drug that her MD had put her on was taken off the market for causing cancer. And it was so heartbreaking to see that she had for so many years used natural medicine to have optimal health. But in the last few years of her life, she decided to go to MDs, and they immediately put her on a ton of drugs, which didn't make sense to me. But she was in the belief system that, well, this is a doctor and the doctor knows what's best. She didn't need drugs her whole adult life, so why all of a sudden she needed them overnight? They got her on hormones, which were, now we know not bioidentical hormones, and sleeping pills and all sorts of things that it's really sad that she chose not to go to her nature path at that point, which is a lesson that I have learned. And I want to pass that on to you. My goal with this podcast is that I can bring to you holistic health information so you don't have to have the same fate my mom had. Or maybe you can pass this information that you learn on to your parents or your friends and family, and maybe we can save a few lives. Maybe we can increase the quality of a few lives. I want to honor my mother's memory and my mother's birthday today with this podcast. I know she would have loved it. Tracy Adams is my guest, and she is an expert in helping people in many areas of their life using the mind-body connection, which is so real. In the podcast, I asked near the end of it, Tracy Adams to share with you an experience of hypnotherapy, and it's a specific type of relaxation, just a little morsel of it, but it'll give you an experience of the mind-body connection. You can take your pulse rate, for example, before she does this 2 or 3 minute relaxation technique, and then take your pulse afterwards. Notice your breath rate lowers, your pulse lowers, you become calm, your body stops excreting all the stress hormones, and you become centered, your digestion is increased. There's so many physiological benefits simply to relaxation. And then on top of that, when we utilize our mind-body connection, we utilize our unconscious mind where all of our resources are, we can begin to heal, and we can begin to set ourselves up for success, an attitude of success. Now, what I found through this interview is that there is this ongoing theme of emotional satisfaction. And that's something that so many people are missing, and maybe why a lot of people run to doctors, because they feel like something's missing, something in their life externally. But really, joy comes from within. And so I hope that as you listen to today's podcast, You can begin to learn things that may help to increase your emotional satisfaction, because when we have emotional satisfaction, all the other aspects of our life can come into alignment. So on my mother's birthday, I wish you health. Enjoy today's show. I am, as always, thrilled to bring you our next guest. Tracy Adams actually played a really monumental role in my birthing of my son almost 14 months ago. And through the experience of working with her, she helped me have such an amazing experience with my birth that she left an unforgettable mark in my life, and I'm so honored to have her on the show today. She's an expert in hypnosis, but in specific categories of hypnosis, because hypnosis is very broad, and one of her expertise is in hypnobirthing, but she also specializes in fertility, in managing chronic pain like headaches and migraines, in helping people with end of life, with weight loss, and with sleep. So those are all problems that most of us at some point in our life may experience. And for me, I came to Tracy to learn hypnobirthing, so the process of going into labor with a set of tools that allowed me to not be in fear mode, to be able to not give in to pain or overwhelm myself with pain, and to decrease pain naturally. And for 40 of those 44 hours of labor, we successfully did that. So, Tracy Adams, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm really honored to have you as a
Oh,
guest.
thank you. I'm just really delighted to be here.
Yeah, so you've been a full-time hypnotherapist since 2011. What
Yes.
what brought you to become a
Oh,
hypnotherapist?
that's a really interesting question. I had two things that really came together to uh, bring me into hypnotherapy. One was that I had all of my dental work done when I was a little kid with hypnosis. I was a cavity prone child and needed a lot of dental work, and had kind of a bad experience as a little kid with a dentist, and so didn't want to go to the dentist. And my mother was very resourceful, and she found me a dentist who used hypnosis. And I remember very distinctly being in his chair and him um, bringing me into hypnosis. And I had a little button. I would say I was about 6 at the time, and I had a little button on my shoulder that he would press that would make my mouth go numb, and then a little button below that that would make me stop salivating, and a little button below that that would make me stop bleeding. And he would press those little buttons while he was doing the dental work. And I remember at one point, he was doing actually an extraction, and he called my mother in to see, and everyone to have a look at what he was doing. And he pressed the little, he asked me, if anything was hurting, and I said no, and everybody was like, ooh, wow. And I don't know what he was doing at the time. Then he pressed the little salivator button, and I just, apparently it was like a geyser. So, and everybody screamed in the room because he had stopped my salivation completely with hypnosis. So from the time I was a little kid, I had a very strong understanding that it was really powerful for the mind-body connection, that was very real, and was very effective for creating shifts in blood flow, and certainly at least peripheral blood flow, and can create an anesthesia effect. And then later on, several years later, I had an experience that was really created a lot of anxiety for me. And in a single hypnotherapy session, I went from, probably a year of ever just compounding, increasing, kind of crippling anxiety. In a single session, it was just lifted. About 10 days after this session, I just realized that it was like someone had turned on the lights. And um, so both of those things had a big influence on me. And then, some years later, when my kids were growing up, and I was looking at what I was going to do now that I was a grown up, this seemed a real obvious choice.
I love it. I love it. You know, I've actually heard stories of paramedics using hypnotherapy to stop bleed outs
Yep.
when they find a patient on the side of the road and they're bleeding out profusely. I've heard that paramedics who've been trained in hypnotherapy have used it to help the person
Yeah.
immediately stop the bleeding.
There's a whole program that's just for paramedics and emergency first responders to work with that. And one of the really cool and interesting things about that is that it takes advantage of shock, which is a natural trance state. It's a natural hypnotic state that we go into when we're in something like, and so that the paramedic really all they have to do is kind of be calm and give instruction. And it's tremendous the shift that can happen very quickly.
You know, that makes a lot of sense because, like you say, we have all the resources we need inside of us. And so it seems natural that we would go into a trance state in a time of shock in order to gain access to our resources.
Hmm. And it's one of those in an emergency. It's one of those times when we can really see our body's natural trance state more vividly. And similarly with birthing, we can see that body's natural trance state as well. When I explain hypnosis to a client when they come into my office, I will usually say it takes advantage of that. We're just using what happens to you when you walk around. If you are driving on the freeway and zone out a little and miss your exit, or get really involved in a story and it makes you feel something emotionally. These are all natural trance states. These are all giving the subconscious mind, the part of the mind that's not the linear, kind of organized piece, the front seat. That's what's happening in a trance state.
I'm looking at your website, cornerstonehypnotherapy.com, and I see that you have a plaque or on there from the Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association.
Yes, the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association. Yes.
Excellent. So you could also help people with their little buttons.
Yes, yes. Some of those techniques, I will tell you but I actually do install little buttons for people sometimes. Some of those techniques are best employed in the moment with a person right there doing it, right? So some techniques for relief from physical pain, something like, let's say, for instance, dental pain, which is all taking place generally in the peripheral nerves, in the mouth, in the gums. Absolutely. People can do self-hypnosis just around that and have their little buttons and press them. And some things it's better if we do that so that, there are dentists, I think, who still practice that way, that when they're standing right there, that they can see what's happening with the patient, push that little button, turn up that inside medicine a little bit, and create that shift. So yeah.
That is so cool. Well, like I shared, my experience with you was around hypnobirthing. So for those listeners who are pregnant or are going to become pregnant or have friends that are going to become pregnant or are pregnant, definitely get your friends to listen to this. Hypnobirthing was absolutely amazing. And being the little overachiever that I am, my husband and I went and took birthing classes from Penny Simpkin, who's this very famous birthing educator and doula instructor. And then we came and found you and took your classes. And we learned so much about how there's a connection between fear and pain.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone has an expectation of pain and they start to get into that fear mode, it's this vicious cycle where more fear will cause more pain will cause more fear. And then they're into hysteria and then they're like, give me the drugs, right? And so,
Right.
of course, Hollywood's done us no justice because Hollywood pretty much is, mostly male writers and men, producers. And so they're like, aha, this is what birth looks like to men is screaming women in pain and doctors giving them drugs.
Right.
And we don't really see in the mainstream Hollywood birthing that is beautiful and calm and pain-free,
Right. Right.
which is this picture that you painted for us when we first came to you.
Well, the body, what we believe and expect are important. That when the example that I will sometimes give is a kid playing soccer, and the kid's out playing soccer with a team that he's practiced with, and or she, this kid's playing soccer and is well practiced and enjoys the game, but doesn't know what's going to happen next. Really doesn't. It's all very spontaneous, but it's very supported and is very calm because it's a very safe environment. And the kid may run off that soccer field, and his mom says, "Wow, look at what happened to your leg? Why is your leg is bleeding?" The kid says, "Oh, yeah, some kid kicked me out there. But did you see me when I shot that thing with my head?" And they're kids still really flowing with endorphins, nature's feel-good medicine, basically. The same kid in a different context, maybe in a situation where it's the first day in a new school, and this kid who seems like they look like a bully maybe, and they're bearing down on him, coming across the playground towards him. This same kid, if that bully even bumps him with his shoulder, even accidentally, that kid's going to feel it with every molecule because there's this expectation. All of the nervous system is pointing to that. And so whether it's with birthing or anything else, if we're anticipating pain, we're actually already feeling it. So when the stimulation comes, then it's magnified and compounded. And adding to that in birth, there's a mechanism that the sympathetic nervous system engages with, which is, fight or flight. When we are in fight or flight, the interior layer of the uterus actually goes into spasm to prevent the baby from coming, because if we're in fight or flight, the nervous system assumes, and the subconscious mind assumes, this is not a safe time to have a baby. It clamps that down. And then the vascular layer of tissue that's in the uterus sends that blood, diverts it to the limbs that are used for fighting and fleeing. And then the layer of the uterus that's actually causing the contraction, that's actually trying to do the work of moving baby out, is less well supplied, and the baby's less well supplied, and mom's getting more exhausted, and now baby's head is nudging against a taut surface instead of a soft surface, and it all again ends up it can be kind of a spiral when we create fear, when fear is associated with birthing, and with that expectations there, and so you can see this sometimes in families where there's kind of an air of positive birth experience that's cultivated within a family, and that even people with no genetic connection within that family, the daughter-in-law of the mother who had a quote easy birth, will often have an easy birth because her mother-in-law said, "No, it's going to be fine. You're going to do great." And so having that kind of expectancy going in, knowing that your body's designed to release endorphins, your body's designed to help you with all the sensations of labor. And, even within that, though, we don't say or promise at all that labor is necessarily, even with hypnosis, is necessarily a pain-free experience. But it is about rethinking how we interpret that alarm signal. We interpret always pain as our body saying something's wrong, and this creates fear and tension. And with birth, we look at this sensation, meaning this is a sensation that says my body's opening, my baby's coming out. So, and then there's no fear in that. So it doesn't compound the sensation and make it worse.
And I could see how you could apply that to the other issues that people would come to you, like sleeplessness, so insomnia. I can imagine if someone has a belief that they're not going to fall asleep, that is just, I've had, one of those nights where I'm lying there and it's 1 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I was supposed to be asleep an hour ago. What's going on? And then I start to think, well, great, I'm waking up at 6. I'm setting myself up for a bad day.
Yes, I know.
I'm going to have a lot. Yeah, right. And then, the thoughts are this runaway train, which is going to keep me up more because now it's the anxiety and now it's this. So it's compounding the issue,
Yes.
which sets it up for an expectation, because maybe in the past, once that happened and, oh, well, that's happened before. So I have a belief that if I'm lying there and I'm staring at the ceiling and I don't feel sleepy, I'm like, great, here we go again. Another sleepless night.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Another, crappy day tomorrow. And
Yeah.
And so it's this, if the belief is already there, it's not like, okay, I'm just going to roll over and fall asleep. Whereas, and headaches too. I mean, the second a headache comes on or a migraine comes on, if we've had one in the past, yes, it's physiological. There's something physiological going on, but psychologically, we'll start to have a belief around it, which can exacerbate the
Well, there's
experience.
two things going on with sleep. Certainly, exactly as you said, we get this expectation, and then we start to expect having a terrible, not rested day tomorrow, and then that begins to be self-fulfilling because we get anxious about that. The other component, though, is that's kind of goes that feeds into that is that when we are sleep deprived after 1 or 2 nights, our body starts to produce more adrenaline and more cortisol. And so that's all designed to help us gut it through, but it means that our body is less receptive then to sleep too. So it's like and then we therefore become more anxious and sleep becomes more difficult. So this is where patterns of insomnia can really get a toehold. And so we look at working with sleep, retraining both the thoughts, retraining the thoughts and what's going on physically, emotionally, in order to shift that expectation so that it's a real belief system. It's not just saying to myself, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to go to sleep, but it's really using hypnosis to let go of that pattern that isn't doing you any service. That feels that it's the body's response is that it feels like it's helping, but in fact, it's really not. And with physical pain, with headaches, I have had a migraine client suggest to me once, why don't we have groups? We could do like a group sessions for migraine. And then we ended up laughing about that because one of the things about migraines, this is not true for all headaches, but for migraine headaches, for certain types of migraines, just thinking about the trigger will evoke a migraine. Just thinking about the trigger. I know that's certainly true when the type of migraine that has an aura where people will have flashing lights sometimes just thinking about whatever it
Oh,
is that triggers their migraine, you can see it in their eyes. They'll start to react to it. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between things that are real and imagined, which that's where you see that coming into place. That's why I wouldn't want to do a migraine group because if one person starts talking about, how, yeah, I saw these I saw this pattern of light and it really gave me a migraine, then everybody's going to, pretty soon everybody in the room is going to be wincing. But for me, certainly I think that what my job is to employ that fact that the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and imagined and apply that to doing something helpful, right? So not only the absence of that trigger, but the presence of what would be the soothing thing. And once people can begin to get some traction with techniques for themselves to create comfort, once they can begin to get some traction, then they're really on their way to resolving whatever the issue is. When I work with migraine and pain, it's always with a doctor referral. I don't really see people for that to come in if they don't already have a diagnosis and if they're in the midst of a new treatment or something. I'll ask for their doctor's green light just so we make sure I'm not masking any pain that needs to be diagnosed. Um, but once we get going with it, it's often a combination of techniques for bringing that kind of soothing comfort, shift in circulation, shift in the electrical signals in the brain and in the body that create that comfort. And it's often combined with really looking at maybe there's some place in the person's life where that pain or that pattern got started that the subconscious mind can let go of. And those are really two different ways of looking at it. And I will usually, with anybody who's seeing me, whether it's for physical pain or emotional pain or anxiety or sleeplessness, we'll kind of go from both those angles, the tool angle and the kind of the deeper root stuff.
beautiful. Have you been able to help people through these techniques? Have they gotten off of drugs?
Like heroin, that kind of drug?
Oh, I meant, sorry, like, like
Oh,
pain
oh yes,
medication.
yes, yes. I do see people who have to be off their medications for some reason. Like for instance, they're pregnant and they can't take their migraine medication. So that's something a time where people will often come in when they are pregnant, but typically people come in because they want to reduce or eliminate their medication, or their medication's not working. So in the case if somebody wants to is really intentional about wanting to reduce or get off their medication, it's a very powerful tool for that. We've had a number of clients come in who really set out to do just that and achieve that. It's not always the case, and it's not something that I manage. It's something that's for the patient, my client, and their healthcare provider to manage that weaning off of medication, so that it's so that we're keeping pace with it. In other words, it's like now I feel like I wouldn't want somebody to come in and do a sleep session with me and then go home and stop taking the medication they've been taking every night for 2 years. So,
Right. Yeah.
Because that can create a rebound effect. What we want to do is get the general level of anxiety and get the body kind of balanced where it is, and then gain confidence with using some tools, gain confidence with the resolution that we're creating, and then ratchet that down. Unless the person's doctor has already told them, you need to cut down on this medicine, which sometimes that happens. And that's why sometimes people come in, because their doctor is already starting to withdraw the medicine. And
Interesting.
that's also a good place to come into, so we're meeting that increased need with some new strategies.
Yeah, they're motivated.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm on your website, cornerstonehypnotherapy.com, and I'm under the FAQ, and I just happened to glance at this question that I find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is hypnotherapy going to interfere with my religion? And the reason why I point that out is we have had both, we had another person on the show who spoke about hypnotherapy, and we had another guest who spoke about meditation. And I had a email from, I get a lot of fan mail, questions and stuff. And I got one from a listener who said that it is her religious belief that when we meditate or when we go under hypnosis, that we are susceptible to the demons coming into our head. And and I know it's funny, but that's her reality. And it's not the first time I've heard this before. I've actually heard it from another guy who's also very religious. So I don't know if there's just there's maybe different religions out there that the minister or the priest is teaching this, because I know it's not like written in the Bible.
Well, I can speak to this. Actually, there is some
Okay.
reference in the Bible, and then depending on what, they don't know if they call it hypnotists, but certainly referring. If I knew you were going to ask me this question in detail, I would have looked this up, because there is some, I believe, biblical reference to, a category of practitioners that we might say like seers or things like that, that a lot of people will lump hypnotists into that category. I'll say some things that I'll tell you some things that might be a little controversial sounding, but I don't think that they are too controversial. It's my belief. First of all, if you ask any 20 hypnotherapists to define a trance state, they're going to give you 35 different answers, so just going into, we know that. But meditation and hypnosis and prayer, our brain waves are kind of doing the same thing in all of those states. And so the difference is, what's the goal of these things, right? So the goal of meditation, and I'm not a meditator, it's not my expertise, but I would say that, kind of conventional thinking about meditation is that meditation is about quieting the mind and kind of being free from thoughts, being only in the present moment, no past, no future. And that's the goal, is achieving this state of a quiet mind. The goal of prayer, generally speaking, again, conventional wisdom, is to connect with a higher power, to make a connection, either to receive guidance, counsel, or comfort, or just depth of relationship. And the goal of hypnosis is to effect change efficiently and effectively, to use the resources. Just like you go to the gym, You lift a weight, the goal is to build that muscle. Just like you go to the grocery store, the goal is to buy your groceries. And going to the hypnotherapist, the goal is to effect change and using your own resources. And I think that it's a little bit like learning to read using your resources. You engage a part of your mind to learn to do something that you didn't know how to do before. And that's that's kind of the way I think of it in terms of the function of them. And now, as far as spirits coming in, I don't know the exact faith of the person who made that inquiry, but certainly in the Christian faith, most Christians, or I would say a great majority, I think, and certainly Bible-based Christians believe that once you have accepted Christ into your life and made Christ your Savior, that you are then sealed in the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit dwells within you. And knowing that the Holy Spirit dwells within one, that really is an automatic protection from anything that would want to get in. Nothing can get in at that point, aligned with that belief system. So that's what I think about it.
I love that answer. That's great. Okay, awesome.
And I've had and I will also tell you that I do have a number of clients who are very, very faithful Christian people. And not just Christian people. I am, and I don't mean to be stereotyping. I am assuming that is a question that may be from someone with a Christian ideology. I could be wrong, but I would say that I have had people from all different kinds of religious backgrounds and belief systems currently. And what people will find usually in hypnosis once they do it is like, oh, it's just that. But again, I do have to speak to the expectation, right? If somebody comes in and says to me, I expect this is going to invite evil spirits into me, then I will say, well, then let's do some stuff without really going into hypnosis. And I'll teach them some relaxation techniques, and I'll teach them because they're in my office for a reason. Even if that's what they believe, there's something they want to change, something they want relief from. And there are forms of using your mind, using kind of hypnotic techniques that are quite wakeful. Most hypnotists, to an answer to what you just gave, would be, to the question that you had about demons, would be that, whenever hypnosis doesn't have you do anything you don't want to do, you're always in control of that state. And the fear, I think, for people is that when we lose control of ourselves, that we are then open. But similarly to sleep, we certainly, even people who are concerned about losing control, yield control at different, probably 8 hours a day to sleep. So
right.
it's just a question then of rapport and trust with the practitioner that you have, right?
Yes. Well, for those who have that concern, Tracy's awesome. So, and I want to know a little bit more about this. So you do hypnotherapy for fertility. How does that work? And what's your track record? How many babies have you helped come into this
Well,
world?
you know what? I'll tell you. I don't really know how many babies I've had come into this world. A few. It's an area where I have a certification, and I do work with fertility, with help with conception. It is something that I will do. Sort of the premise sounds like it's simple, like it's this finite, like, here's a baby, but it's often it's often more about. I'll put it this way. People see me at different stages in their journey of conception, right? Sometimes people will come in when they're I have a client that I'm working with right now who's just decided it's time to get pregnant. And she's a little bit, probably past the age arc for getting pregnant. She's not in her 20s. And she wants to just have everything being positive and do a lot of visualization and enhance ideal blood flow to her uterine lining for implantation. And she's just very, very positive and very excited about that, and wanting, and she has no indicators that she would have any issues with fertility at all. She's just wanting everything to her advantage, just like people will take vitamins when they're getting ready to conceive. That's how she's doing hypnosis. And some people on the other end of the spectrum will come in after years and years of defeat, and grief and sorrow and losses. And so what I do with those two clients on that end of the spectrum is really different, really different. It's about, for the client who's on this, who's been through a long journey, it's about helping this woman or this couple to create a belief system that is hopeful, yet realistic, that is empowered and focused on abundance and creating more of what she wants more of, and kind of letting go of the vocabulary of barrenness and infertility, and stepping into confidence in herself at her root, so that then we can begin to do, maybe even if she's working with assistive reproductive technology on any level, that we're helping to bridge that gap emotionally, so that her body has the endorphins and the love chemistry that's most sets the stage for implantation, for conception, and for a pregnancy to thrive. Often when women are subjected to a lot of clinical stuff, it all feels bad. It all has it creates a whole bunch of negative associations. And that's what women are going in with, is a kind of dread. So if you can imagine, this is not setting the stage correctly. So we work with that from that angle, but it's careful work. I mean, that's really careful, because you're dealing with real feelings of loss and grief, and we don't want to dismiss those either. And then, so it's visualization, and it's also emotional resolution, and it's using the power of the mind to really connect to the right chemistry, the right circulation, the right emotional and chemical and electrical signals in the body. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. Because I mean, I was just remembering this story where I heard from a hypnotherapy teacher who had a classroom full of students, and one of them was a doctor, um, who did not ever see the mind-body connection. So he thought it was like complete hocus pocus. And so they had him come up to the front of the room, and they did a session where they increased his metabolism, like a little mini session.
Mm-hmm.
And he started sweating. His face went flush. He started sweating profusely, and he felt his metabolism increase. And he felt his temperature rise, and he started almost like yelling, like, I can't believe it that you just said words, and you changed my physiology.
Right.
That's not possible. You just said words. That's not possible. That's not possible that you could affect my physiology. And of course, you can, I learned this early on, that you can change your blood pressure. And so I'd always have
Right.
fun in the medical office where they take my blood pressure, and I'd say, okay, want to see something fun? Okay, take my blood pressure again. And I would lower my blood pressure
Mm-hmm.
through like a little bit of a self-hypnotic technique.
Right.
You can lower your blood pressure, you can increase your it's a biofeedback. You can increase the oxygenation of your
Yep.
blood through deep breathing, and
Lower your heart rate. You can do all that. Yep.
yeah, and then it makes total sense that through hypnosis you could increase the blood flow to the uterine wall. That makes complete
Mm-hmm.
sense. Just like you can eliminate pain and stop the saliva, and
Right.
stop the blood flow to to the a small cut or something.
Right.
Um, because the body has these little muscles that do this, like those little tiny muscles all throughout the capillaries and the arteries, and your unconscious mind, which is the part of you that controls your body, can go, okay, I'm going to contract this muscle and divert blood flow to a different area.
Yeah, and your body's ready to do that. It knows how. It's just we have to ask it in the right way. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it's tricky, for people to do it on their own, which people can do it on, like you're doing it on your own. And that's my goal as a hypnotherapist, is to give people tools so that they don't need me anymore. um, for projects that, that's really my goal. And that's why when you say, what's your success rate with fertility? It's like, well, I don't know. I usually, when I'm working with fertility, I work with people who are doing a lot of other things too, right? They're probably doing acupuncture. They're probably doing, probably working with doctors. They're doing um, things from multiple angles. So I would be loath to take credit for all of those pregnancies. I just think that this is part of something. And my belief is that going into especially assisted reproductive technology, anything to do any IUIs, or any kind of implantation work or harvesting, is very much, um, it's very clinical, and it's very stressful, and it's very expensive. And I think that having an opportunity to be really focused in a very positive place for your body, not just the mind, but for the body to be able to get the benefit of that positive focus. And it's been a very valuable part of that process. And for some people, it's very easy. For some people, I set them up with some tools and they do it on their own. And then for others, I'm really working on an ongoing basis, and helping people even to eat healthy, which sometimes doctors are not particularly. Not all of them are like the doctor who didn't believe in the mind-body connection. Some people are not real tuned into kind of what else is going on in a person's life too.
My friend had a miscarriage simply from the stress levels. She had an acute
Mm,
stressful situation, emotionally,
right.
mentally, not physically. She wasn't, I mean, but I can't say that, because the second you're under emotional stress, you're under physical
That's
stress.
right.
But her body responded physically, and unfortunately, her body had a miscarriage, and I think she was in her second trimester,
Mm,
which was so hard on her.
sure. Yeah.
And just to see that, something as simple as stress management could have prevented that miscarriage.
Yeah. Well, and we know that stress and anxiety can cause the heart to stop, of a fully, of a person without any other record of heart disease. Trauma, stress, and anxiety definitely have an effect on the body. Not always as dramatic as something like a miscarriage or a heart attack or something like that, but we do know that either in a big way like that or in little small ways that we don't see because they're not dramatic, but they're still having an effect on the body, a toxic effect. And by toxic, I don't mean like, um, I mean literally, like we're storing up fight or flight chemistry in the body, and it's just continues to kind of work on us physically, and so it can take the form of something very dramatic. Like people will often vomit under stress. A lot of people will get nauseous. A lot of people will get headaches, and certainly then when for some people, and it's just about almost timing, right? The point in your friend's pregnancy when that stressful experience happened, the exact moment, and during a pregnancy there are a lot of little turning points, a lot of little moments of development where the body is working really hard, and at that particular moment then the energy is drained away. It can be really serious. So
Right. So this is all a really good reason to see you, to see hypnotherapist.
well, yeah.
Well, duh.
Sure.
Yeah. Um, I love it. Well, so I want to let people know that you're in Seattle, and you have a great office, and you teach classes around hypnobirthing, which is like parenting classes. You teach the men too, or the other partner
Yes.
too,
Yes.
which I love. I love that my husband got to come with me and learn as well, because he was such a crucial part of the birth
Yeah.
experience. And he was my partner in every aspect of the word. And then you also see clients for these conditions we talked about. And then you also can take do like hypnosis over Skype or over the
I
phone?
do. I do see people and use hypnotherapy over the internet. It is not the focus of my practice, but I have found it to be for some clients and some issues to be very effective. I wouldn't probably do distance sessions for weight loss. That's probably one of the things I wouldn't do. But maybe I shouldn't say that. But you can,
Well, no, I mean, you want to be
yeah.
effective. And so there's certain hypnotherapy. I think for certain things you'd be very effective online. And then there's just ones that you want to meet in person. I completely understand that. Now, how has your track record been around helping people with weight loss
Mm.
and
Oh,
hypnotherapy?
I loved help. I love weight loss and hypnotherapy. Great. I mean, people lose weight. It's people who want to lose weight will lose weight. People who it's really because it's not about the food. Some people do something else happens before they lose weight. Sometimes people find self-acceptance before they lose weight. Sometimes people find that there's something else that wants to change in their life. Often people will come to my office, will sign up with me, will make the appointment because they're tired of their body the way that it is and they want to lose weight. But when they come in, we usually always discover at some point that it's not really about the food, that it's about some other need that needs to be met. Maybe um, uh, it's an emotional need because it's your subconscious mind is using that food to try to fill that, to try to give that comfort or that pleasure or that sense of safety and security. And so we look at what else could the subconscious mind do to provide that, and what happens when we now don't have to be thinking about food all the time. What do we think about? What's going to be there,
Wow.
and what's present for us, and in more ways than could be before, because when we eat, we're really responding to an anxiety. I don't, all those other feelings, whether it's insecurity or sorrow or loneliness or boredom even, basically our subconscious mind kind of interprets all that as anxiety. And Ashley, you have a baby. By the time when you're tiny, your baby knows how to get fed. That's the one thing we come into the world knowing how to do. That's the signal that we need to eat. And when we signal that we need to eat, if we don't get fed right away, if nobody responds to our early hunger cues, we have distress hunger cues. And so the body, and then we get soothed, we eat, we're fed, and then we feel better. And the body learns those connections. And then later on in life, when we're experiencing different kinds of stresses, different kinds of things, our body kind of remembers that connection. And so just the action of chewing and moving the mouth and hearing that audible soothing, it gets interpreted in a way that our subconscious mind generalizes that out to include that eating something palatable equals emotional soothing. And it creates this pattern that through continuity and repetition, we get a lot of association with. And we also release, every time we chew, release a little burst of endorphins. So kind of knowing some of that is in place, we are really, really looking at retraining the brain to create some new pathways to comfort, some new pathways to experiencing joy, new pathways to experiencing peace and feeling healed and whole and complete. So my track record is great for all that. Sometimes people will lose weight right away in the very first few sessions if they come in and they're really primed and they're like really know a lot about nutrition already, and they're just trying to get past a stuck place with it. It's like, why, if only I could stop eating these donuts, they're kind of in that space. And then some people come in and they want to keep eating donuts, but they also want to lose weight. And that's a different process. Then we're looking at that person as, well, how do we set that intention in a way that it's going to really be helpful to you? So, it's not typically, even though we've done all this talk about the mind and the body connecting, weight loss with hypnosis, although we can increase the metabolism, that is a feature. We're not going to look at weight loss being really effective by just increasing the metabolism, because we also really do need to change what's going into the body, and muscle tone, and emotional satisfaction. So all of those things are components of weight loss with hypnosis. And it's a wonderful, I love working with weight loss because it's always so unique. It's so varied. Everybody comes in with a different story, a different background. And so I love to customize the process for each person. And it's always a discovery process, whether it's a person who's been obese from the time they were a small child and they don't even have a frame of reference for feeling comfortable in their body. That is a really exciting journey. And that journey can be really long, when we're looking at losing significant weight and really getting to know the body and what that means to create emotional satisfaction, and all kinds of whatever family history was involved with creating that and setting that up. That's an exciting journey. It's an exciting journey to work with someone who's, older and has been athletic, and then their body changed at some point, and they have a great frame of reference for being lean and fit, but they just find that they're sort of surprised that their body has changed, and they're trying to find their way to shift back into being healthy and more strong. And so it's always interesting, and I really find that to be a source of real engagement in my practice that is always unpredictable. But what is predictable is that people feel better.
You said a phrase, emotional satisfaction, and it really hit me. Because I'm thinking about other problems, because you unlike maybe, I know there's certain hypnotherapists out there who are kind of very cookie cutter, and you're not. You really do like a personal assessment with each person, and you're going to fine tune the sessions. You customize the sessions for each person, which is great. So if a listener who's had hypnotherapy in the past, they might not have had the experience that you give because you don't do cookie cutter. But do you find that when you do that personal assessment and you get to the root cause, because I think that's with everything we want to get to the root cause. It's a whole point of a holistic, the holistic approach. Do you find that there's a lack of emotional satisfaction in other problems that people come to you with, like migraines, chronic pain, sleep? Do you find that at the root of it, or somewhere near the root of it, that they don't have emotional satisfaction in their life?
Very often. The distinction is the reason why usually working with someone for migraine, usually, or any kind of pain, it's just usually a more finite process where we say, okay, now we're done. You have these tools, is because with physical pain, there's usually not any mixed feelings, right? People don't want that pain. Even people who've lived with it for a long time want relief, right? People with weight issues, there's a mixed feeling because that bread or that candy or that bag of chips has been a friend. And so there's a mixed feeling about changing that. And it's provided a reward, a physical satisfying reward that's become interpreted by the subconscious mind as an emotional reward. And the subconscious mind has learned that through maybe all kinds of events, but certainly including continuity and repetition, and but deeper things than that too. So yes, your point is well taken. Just generally speaking, people, even though a person who's in chronic pain might get some extra attention or something, that's not motivating. Nobody wants to be in pain. And so people are very, once we get to where that to the heart of the matter for them, then it will yield generally, and then they feel better, and then they want to create that change. With weight loss, depending on how long or how much or what it is, it may be we may find that root place, and then there may be layers of things. And there's also a little bit longer time before we feel the relief, at least physically, right? So,
Right. I'm just imagining all the commercials that are out there on the radio and on TV and on online around food, and it's
oh yeah.
all what's the theme? If you ask yourself, what's really the theme? Because you look at like, drug commercials, it's kind of obvious, like, oh, the theme of this commercial is to have better sex,
Hmm.
the theme of this commercial is take this drug and your whole family will love you again, so you kind of look at what's the advertiser trying to tell you. And in all the food ones, all the restaurants and the fast food chains, it's having to do with emotional satisfaction.
Hmm. Look, everybody's happy. Everybody's so
Yeah.
happy, and they're all having fun with their family or their really good friends. And yeah, it's a and um, and a lot of and most of those, I mean, in certainly in chain restaurants, a lot of that food is really palatable. It's really tastes good, and it is also what the content of the food is not always so um, or not frequently designed to promote health. Um,
Right. What's really funny is that, so my husband and I love sushi. It's actually when we were just getting to know each other, we were just dating. I took him out for sushi, and he fell in love with it. And I've loved it since I was 3 years old. My dad, when I was 3, took me out on my third birthday for sushi, and I just love sushi. And I started to notice the last few years that we would always take friends, especially maybe friends that have never had sushi. We're like, oh, great, let's get you hooked on it
hmm.
too. I found that there's one place that is so good. I mean, the sushi there is just melt in your mouth, close your eyes, just you only need one piece. Like that's just you could just order one piece and that is the bliss from this one piece. You don't have to overeat and it's so good. It's so well done. But when I'm with friends, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the food. I barely even taste the
Oh
food
yeah.
because I'll end up eating way more. And afterwards, I realized I didn't get any of that sushi high that I normally do when
When you're
it's just me
focused
or
on it. Yeah.
yeah, when I'm focused on it and really enjoying the full experience. Because I find that I'll overeat when I'm not even enjoying it.
Yeah.
But when I'm really looking to enjoy the experience, I actually don't overeat. And I just thought that was really interesting. Um, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much going on with our weight, and because there's a mind-body connection, because there's emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical, that's all interconnected. And so the root cause isn't just with physical. I mean, I know you could take someone and just reduce their calories, but they're only going to last so long.
Right. The difference between using something like a diet or restriction and hypnotherapy for weight loss is that with a diet, it's this whole cycle of restrict and reward. And what we really look to do with using something that really utilizes the mind-body connection is to go completely out of that model into um, fueling the body really well, really responding to emotional need rather than reacting to it, and focusing on that fuel, like you said, focusing on really enjoying the foods that we eat, the enjoyment of it, and the actually concentrating on the aspects of it that are enjoyable. And when we're doing other things that are enjoyable, concentrating on that, right? Concentrating on those other things, laughing, talking with friends, then that's what we're doing. We're focusing on that, and then the eating can take an entirely back state to the point where it's maybe not even really happening at that point because we're focusing um, where we want to concentrate our energy. And with hypnosis for weight loss, we look at shifting the body's appetite so that we respond to physical hunger and we respond to emotional appetite with different tools, right? So we're pretty conditioned to respond to emotional appetite with food, and once we start really appreciating it, really concentrating on it, really adding more things that are truly you know more about nutrition than I do even, but adding nutrition to the diet the things that we're eating, so that we're on a conscious and subconscious level, the body is really confident that we're not starving. Then we have room to increase the metabolism, which then helps any excess weight to shed off more quickly, or to shed more quickly.
I love it. I love the thing. You are so serious about this. I've met a lot of other hypnotherapists that kind of dabble in it, and man, you're like booked back to back.
It's true.
You have thousands of people that have seen you over the years, and you've taught so many people. And so, you're really an expert when I say that, because you put in, what is it, like 10,000 hours to be an expert, and I know
don't even know.
you've done that and
It
more.
never stops. That's the thing. Well, it's the thing about things that you're interested in, right? You're always learning, and it's always about expanding that and making that better. I mean, it's corny. That sounds corny to say to me even, but it's true. So yep, it's always creating more opportunity for learning. And it is true. I'm been working hard, and we talked about this a little bit before. I've been actually not cutting back my practice, just sort of shifting my hours a little bit in the way that I'm working just a little bit now, so that I can make some room in my schedule to do some recordings and to record some hypnotherapy sessions that people can listen to when they're not with me, that I think are unique and a little bit different from what else is out there. So it's all still in progress right now. I don't have it all done yet, but.
Well, when you do, we're gonna have you back on the show, so we can let people know, so they can go buy it, because you are fantastic. I really do believe. I believe in the guests that I interview. I don't want to expose the listeners to someone that I don't believe in. You know what I mean? So I truly do. I wholeheartedly back you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely. So to go check out Tracy Adams, you can visit her website, cornerstonehypnotherapy.com. The links to everything that Tracy does is going to be in the show notes of this podcast. And if you want to learn more about the hypnobirthing, you can go to seattlehypnobirthing.com. Sign up for classes there. If you're pregnant, absolutely do that. And now you have a business partner, Kira.
Yes, Kira Dorian.
Who, and she does great hypnotherapy as well, and she focuses on other areas of expertise. So other
yes, she
type. Yeah. So fill us in for those who maybe you didn't mention something, that a problem that someone has, but what does Kira do?
Kira works with a lot with habits, things like smoking and nail biting. She really specializes in nail biting, but she certainly does a lot of work with smoking. Kira also works with phobias, things like fears of spiders and bridges and all kinds of things that people have, what they would, fears that are disproportionate, that they want to get rid of. And, this is like in Seattle. I'm in Seattle, where there are a lot of bridges. So I'm sure she gets a lot of business from people who are afraid of bridges, because that's a pretty common fear. Those are really specific phobias. She and I both work with general anxiety things, but she's really the among us the one. She's chosen to really focus on those situational phobias. She and I both work with birth. She's my partner in Seattle Hypnobirthing as well. And also, I want to just mention too that Kira and I have developed a program for mothers after they've had their babies. It's called Hypnomothering, and it's designed for women who to help women make the transition into motherhood. But we're also expanding it gradually to include mothers of preschoolers, mothers of tweens and teens, giving some quick, easy self-hypnosis techniques to do on the fly for moms who might be stressed or coping. And it offers some tips and some solutions for coping with limited sleep, for moms, and it's not just for moms, but dads can participate too. But
Right. Well,
yeah,
actually, my husband and I attended you taught us one-on-one because
yes,
I wanted Duffy to experience the hypno mothering because we were both going to be at home with the baby, and I was not prepared. I mean, everyone told me what would happen, but I was not prepared for literally every 90 minutes it needs to eat, day or night.
yes, yeah, and that's one of the things that we developed hypnomothering because we were um, loving working with birth and loving all of the stories that we see probably, I don't know, 300 women a year for birthing, for hypnobirthing, and we were love introducing women to this idea that they've been terrified of birth because, like you said, all the scary movies and every image around birthing is women screaming, and just to see this kind of, oh really, it's and to hear their birth stories was lovely. But what we kept hearing was basically this vibe of, well, I sure wish I'd known this stuff about afterwards, because our culture is kind of um, villainized birthing as this big scary thing, but idealized early motherhood as this is the part where a rainbow extends from one shoulder over your head to the other shoulder, and then there's a little unicorn princess that whispers in your ear all the things you should do next, and it's just kind of not like that, really. It's really hard, and it's tiring, and there's a lot going on at once with your body and with this new person and your partner and logistics. And so the hypnomothering is really designed to help smooth that transition. That's why we developed it for our pregnant moms. And then it's grown now to include basically all moms, because we have over 100 practitioners now trained in hypnomothering that they teach this class around the world. And as we were doing that training, they kept, of our practitioners kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to use these techniques with my teenager," and and so we decided that we are expanding it. It's just a lengthy, or I wouldn't say lengthy, but it's we have to fit it into our schedules as we can. Any work that we do on it to develop it beyond the initial stage. But we're hoping by the
Right.
end of, actually, our intention is certainly by the end of 2016 to have really unveiled some new components to the program. So,
Excellent. Well, I just remember lying in bed, totally tired and wired, having, now I went through like 5 days in the hospital, did not sleep very well or any, and for 5 days, and then came home, and now this baby needs to be fed every 90 minutes, knowing that I'm not for weeks, for several weeks, I will not have 8 hours of sleep.
mhm,
Knowing that, I mean, that alone can cause anxiety.
right.
And then I used the techniques you taught me about how to squeeze the most amount of sleep in out of 20 minutes or out of
Yay!
60 minutes, and getting a tremendous amount of refreshment out of 20 minutes of sleep, using the technique, and mostly because you set up my mindset for not focusing on the fear
Mhm.
of the weeks to come of lack of sleep and then getting anxiety over thinking about all the
Right.
negatives. Instead, I'm thinking about how much rest and healing I can get out of the next 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, just that part of the course that you teach really, really helped me in the first few months, which were very hectic, allowed me to sort of get into the eye of the storm and weather it well. So thank
You're
you.
welcome. I'm so glad that was helpful for you. It's an interesting thing when we get feedback like that, because we talk about different components of new motherhood, and sleep is certainly a big chunk of what we talk about. And we also talk in the program about, uh, bonding, and issues that can come up with that, and other, and uh, other whole host of different kinds of issues. And when we get feedback, it's usually one thing like that, like the sleep, like one thing that stuck out that people go, "Oh, and this was really helpful." But usually it really is. We talk in the beginning when we teach the class about it being kind of like a spice rack or a toolbox that, some of these things are going to be really valuable for you and some are going to be like, well, that doesn't really apply to me. And sure enough, that's sort of the way it shakes out. So I'm glad that was
Yeah, it's
helpful.
great.
And that's just generally when I'm working with sleep, that's my approach anyway, though, is that, a little bit of hypnotic sleep is, it's like concentrated orange juice. It's really packs a lot of restoration. I mean, I still wouldn't operate heavy machinery with nothing but a 20-minute nap over the course of 24 hours, but I would, but
I
you
think
feel a lot better.
I think that like for both parent men and women, I think they should like take if there's like a license you need to operate heavy machinery, they should take it away from you for like the
Mhm.
first year after having a
Yeah,
kid, because
yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true.
yeah.
I mean, it's a sleep deprivation plays little tricks on you, but having getting that just that little bit of uh, refreshment and being able to take advantage and sink into that, even that 20-minute space, can really create a huge amount of emotional resource and help you think more
Hmm.
clearly as well. Just, still some reflexes might be a little slow.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Tracy Adams, for being on the show. It has been an absolute delight. Uh, for those who want to check you out, they can go to seattlehypnobirthing.com. Of course, if you're pregnant, or share that website with your friend that's pregnant. And for all other concerns, check Tracy Adams out at cornerstonehypnotherapy.com. All the links to everything Tracy does is going to be in the show notes of this podcast. And before we wrap it up, Tracy, first of all, thank you so much for talking about and teaching about utilizing the mind-body connection. I think everything we've talked about is so powerful here. I had several powerful personal experiences with you,
uh,
helping me through both birth and then through early motherhood. And I know my husband as well enjoyed learning from you and utilizing the tools that you taught us. And what I love about your style is you're helping people do change work, but you're also always teaching them tools so that they're self-sufficient. So I really, really, really respect that. And before we end, I'd love for you to give us a little sample of a relaxation hypnosis, maybe something that people can just with if they're not driving, or they can just save this to when they're not driving. They can
sure.
just experience relaxation, which, as you know, relaxation plays such a crucial role in increasing the immune system
Hmm.
and decreasing stress and increasing digestive health. And there's so many positive outcomes from doing relaxation. So if you could just guide us through something simple
Sure.
to give people an experience of relaxation in hypnotherapy.
I will. I would love to do that. And this will be something that you really don't want to listen to while you're driving. Just, I know you already said that, Ashley, but I'm going to reiterate that because although it's not going to be a big hypnosis process, it is intended to be very relaxing. And there are three. I'm going to be giving those kind of series of instructions. And so when I give those instructions, if you're following them, it would not be appropriate for you to be driving. Um, so we just begin this process with your eyes remaining open and choose a spot, oh, mm, high up on a wall nearby or, a room's length away from you. And gently just focus your eyes on that spot and allow all of your focus to rest on that one spot as you just become aware of its texture and shading. And as you gently breathe in and out at the right tempo and pace for you, let your jaw become soft and your shoulders sink down with each exhale. Continue looking at that spot you've chosen and notice everything about it, perhaps realizing that the more you focus your thoughts here now, the more completely absorbed and involved in this spot you become. And your eyes may begin to grow tired. And as you continue gazing at that spot and gently resist closing the eyes, just trust that in a moment when I ask you to close those eyes down, the release in those muscles will feel really good. So let those eyes just close and take a deep breath. And even as you let that feeling of release Wash through those muscles around your eyes now, and the release moves deep into the space behind your eyes, realizing that you can still imagine that small spot that only a moment ago you saw with your eyes. And you begin to spread the physical relaxation now down over your cheeks and jaws, and you remember that spot that you gazed at only a moment ago, recalling that image exactly as it was, or perhaps now adding more dimension or color or feeling. And now spreading this release down through your neck and shoulders, throughout your neck and shoulders, and all the way down through your upper arms, and down through your elbows and forearms and wrists, and now easily into your hands. And as you place all of your awareness now on your right hand, discover now that right hand is becoming heavy. That's right, placing more and more of your awareness there on that right hand. And just as easily as a few moments ago you once placed all of your awareness on a spot that you were gazing at, and a moment later focused using only your imagination, now perhaps discovering you easily place all of your awareness on the heaviness of your right hand. Notice the heaviness of your right hand, and with all of your awareness right here there on that right hand, you may feel a sense of tingling in your fingertips or a slight pulsation there, or you may just be very aware of how very relaxed and how very quiet your right hand is now, how very heavy it is. And you may find that the more focus you give your right hand, the more heavy it becomes. And the more heavy it becomes, the more you're aware of it. Now you may feel that as a palpable heaviness and weight, or you may simply be aware of the stillness in your right hand. In a moment, when I ask you to spread this deep relaxation to your left hand, you may be surprised to discover how quickly you release and relax that left hand. So now allow both hands to feel that release, that stillness. Notice if your left hand feels that relaxation as heaviness or lightness. Notice how easily this relaxation moves right there through both hands now. And now gently spread this same quality of release up into your chest. Feel the bloom of relaxation here as your breath becomes the relaxation and your release moves deeply through your body all the way, softening those muscles between the shoulder blades, and your head becomes heavier still, sinking down, just as your hands were heavy and still only a moment ago. As you let this relaxation wash down through your body, every tissue, every cell responding, letting go. This release moving down through your hips and thighs, your knees, all the way down through your shins, the ankles, the soles of your feet, the tips of your toes. And now that your body is so beautifully relaxed, releasing the surface tension of your skin, and so too any remaining mental tension. And as you breathe into this quiet relaxation, allow to come to mind your favorite color sky. And imagine you're here under this beautiful sky, imagining your mind is this vast as the sky. And close your eyes as if you can still see this sky even behind your closed eyes, like a dream inside a dream. And breathe. And let this place be a place that feels just right to you. And as you breathe, you know this quiet place is here for you anytime you want to return to it. And so as you prepare to return to the present moment, bringing with you this understanding that your mind and body easily relax together, coming back up all the way, aware of the surface beneath you, experiencing a nice wash of energy moving up through your body, maybe even like laughter coming up inside, and your mind becoming energized and alert to the moment that is now, your body fully present in this time and space, as your eyes just begin to open, feeling relaxed and good, eyes open, fully alert and energized in mind, body, and spirit.
That was amazing. So for
Thanks.
those who've never experienced hypnotherapy, there's a little
It's a little
sample.
sample. It's a little sample. We didn't go all the way into the countdown, all the way into, hypnosis proper, but that's a little progressive relaxation. That's a way that I will commonly begin a session, and it's a pretty typical beginning. Although sometimes we do things that are a little faster, but it depends.
It's like an appetizer.
It is. That's an appetizer. That's right.
Yeah. And then so once you have them down, then you get to do change work.
Once you're down, yes. No, once,
Yeah.
once, yes, hypnosis is a really flexible tool. Often, as we've talked about, we're dealing with some level of emotional need, and we're asking the subconscious mind to change something, and the subconscious mind loves what's familiar. So often relaxing lets the subconscious mind know that this is a good, safe time to create change. So relaxation is often the initiation to the change work, although change work can be done really quickly, very rapidly, and without any real formal induction. A skilled hypnotherapist can use language carefully placed in order to invite the subconscious mind to create change that the client wants, without even any need for a deep induction like that. So
I love it. So this is integrative medicine. This is holistic medicine. People come to you often. Doctors send their patients to you,
mhm.
and so people who are looking for true holistic medicine should seek a good hypnotherapist like you to collaborate with their other caregivers to help them and collaborate with them in their unconscious mind to help them achieve their health goals.
Most I would suggest that, just as I do when we talk about hypnobirthing and finding the right provider for you, most doctors who specialize in pain work, if there's a chronic pain issue, will usually be very open to hypnotherapy and hypnosis. They are usually aware of it, and if they're not, then you have a choice of choosing another doctor, or certainly introducing your doctor to it. Most doctors who specialize in these areas really are aware of what else is available to support their patients too.
And I definitely believe in second and third opinions.
Yeah.
Should a doctor not promote a tool that works like this, especially for chronic pain, I don't know if I'd want to see that doctor. I love that my OBGYN, a very, MD,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because I unfortunately, couldn't work with midwives and I had to be transferred to an OB. She said to me, because the baby was turned, and she said, this is like a week 32, she said, in our first meeting, she goes, "Oh, you should go to acupuncture." And I nearly
Mm.
fell off the table because I was in my mind thinking MDs and
Right. Right.
OBGYNs are very, anti holistic medicine. And here they are embracing it because she said that they have such a high success rate with helping babies turn. Simply,
Right.
placing needles in the acupressure points, the baby will turn. And, they've had 5,000 years to prove that it works. So
Mhm.
the same with hypnotherapy has been around for a very long time. And so there are doctors who are accepting of what already works, which this works. Thank you so much, Tracy,
Oh,
for being on the show and for teaching us and giving us this little appetizer of hypnotherapy. Um,
yay.
I look forward to having you back on the show, especially when you can announce that your audios will be for sale, because I know that I will definitely be getting some. So I'm really excited about
Okay,
that.
all right. I'm excited. I'm excited too. Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun and a new experience for me. So,
Excellent. Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.